And we're going to be in a total state of chaos in our community. Amen?
Amen.
And that's the preacher in me. So somehow we're going to have to find some folk who really want to love some folk. Amen?
Amen.
Not agree with folk, but love folk. I love you even if I don't agree with you. I'm going to love you anyhow. Say amen.
Amen.
Because love is 100% of the time. I can disagree with you 50% of the time. And I can still work with you all of the time. Say amen.
Amen.
So Brother Lee and I, many years ago, when we had some problems with hostility, we came together with the Black, Brown, and Tan Caucus. Right? Blacks, browns, tan. I mean everybody, regardless of your color. But it was all under the spirit of love. How do we get rid of the hostility towards each other? And how do we create a community where we can work together? Not agree all the time, but work together. Amen? So that our community could get better. It's been an incredible journey. It's been a tough journey. But Brother Lee Salvaboy and myself and others have stuck it out, even when folk have tried to divide us. Say amen.
Amen.
So for that, we made it through the pandemic. We made it through the pandemic. North side, south side, west, we were working together and made it through the pandemic. And now, we're being threatened in the halls of a high school with this same hatred and hostility unnecessarily after we're coming through a pandemic and they're targeting us.
Yep.
With the N-word in the classrooms, completely tolerated by the teacher and hushed up by the administration. Unnecessary hostility when we need to be preaching love in those halls and harmony in those classrooms, coming out of the worst pandemic any of us have ever experienced. And it's hurting our community horribly right now. And we need your help in praying for harmony instead of hostility inside of forward. Say amen.
Amen.
We need more love. We don't fight the good fight. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. So, I'm hurting right now. I pastor a community that's hurting right now. We don't want any more hostility. We don't want to cause hostility. And we're tired of being the victims of hostility. So that's why we ask you to pray for harmony in our community. How we get there, I don't know. I know it starts with love and it ends with love. But how we get there, I don't know. So, I'm not running for any office.
Yeah.
I'm not running for any office. I'm not. I'll help, I'll advise, I'll serve, but I'm not running for any office. What I am here to say is, we're prepared to open up our hearts and our halls at our church, to create unity and harmony in our community. We meet every Thursday at 11 o'clock at New Mount Rose Missionary Baptist Church in the South Side of Fort Worth. You are all welcome to join us. If you have something that you're doing that promotes harmony, I mean real harmony, no superficial pushing harmony, real harmony, we're there to work with you. God bless you. May He keep you in our prayer. Is our prayer. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience? And one question that I have is, or maybe a fact, and that's the racism. Nobody is born a racist. There's not a racist born moment in your body when you're born. It's a learned behavior. You learn it. You learn it from either at home or with your friends and outside in the community, the people that you touch, etc. You start to make things different. They're different than me. Right? They're less than me, or they're more than me, or whatever. But I think this is something that we have to learn, that we're not born a racist. We become a racist by ourselves, or we learn it from somebody. But anyway, any questions on the subject? Right here.
I wanted to make a comment.
Identify yourself, please, sir. You identify yourself, please, sir, and stand up. Thank you.
My name is Robert Chavez. I'm originally from right here. We seen what has happened before this happened. It's history. It's history repeating itself. And it starts with one man. And they believe in that one man. Okay? And it's not God. But they hide under God. And we need to teach them. We need to teach your philosophy. Okay? But that's what it is. We had to start from the bottom. Just one at a time. If we don't step up to the plate, because right now they're scared of us. Because if we get together, we go out there, and how we can correct that, we got to go out there and go vote.
Yeah.
Right? We can correct that. We have leaders just like yourself. And I thank you for coming over here. I'm sorry that you didn't have to leave us and everything, because we need to get together. I'm from that same South Side myself. I mean, I grew up there. But sir, I want to thank you. But we have to understand that we have history, and they don't want us to know our history. They don't want us to go back because it brings up hatred and all. But it's not that. We had love back then. Thank you very much, sir.
Brother Latino, just out in the community. My question has substance in there. I want to know, the same people that push legislation, push back against the mask mandates, have, like, they get this temporary injunction real fast, but those same people, they do the stall tactic. So my question to you, I see you out in the community a lot, I see in the news, why is the Latino Jefferson taking so long to get to trial? Like all these stall tactics, and you talk about racial discrimination and prejudice and all that. I just want to know why there's no transparency there. Like it's been what, 2-3 years? So that's my question. Like when is Mr. Aaron Dean going to face his sentence?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. It's to be candid, it's all political. It's all political. And the frustrating part is, if you put this in perspective, and I'm not saying everyone has to agree with my perspective on the question of Tatiana. This is the first time that there's a good shot of a police officer being convicted of murder
No amen to that.
of an African American in Tarrant County.
That's a joke.
If not, I don't know if
amen
I've
to
seen
that.
it anywhere in Tarrant County. I know of African American. And
Can't give an amen to that.
that's a delicate issue.
Oh, I didn't. You said
said amen to that.
Amen.
I said
And it's an
amen.
issue that one shouldn't deal with from a knee-jerk response.
Sorry. No, you're good.
So while those of us who've been victimized of injustice for a long time want to see justice happen, it's best that we take the right amount of time and get it right than to knee-jerk it and get it wrong. So if those in power, and I don't agree with the length of time it's taken, I absolutely agree it should have happened before. But for us not to knee-jerk out there and start an emotional tirade and still have the trial in Tarrant County is a huge win for that trial to happen in Tarrant County. So here again, that's one thing, is we can create some hostility right now because we don't get everything we want in that. But I do believe ultimately, if we just keep our cool and let the process happen, it grinds slowly and fine, but we'll eventually get justice. In this case, I just think all the things are there, but if we do something to create, I think it's called inflammatory. If you create an inflammatory situation, that's one of the reasons you have not seen me out there at all. We got a mistrial because they said what we were doing was inflammatory in another trial. So we did not want to be accused of anything inflammatory. Again, harmony over hostility. Because after this is over, we're still going to have to try to find a way to live and work together.
We have one more question, Reverend. Right back here. We're moving up front, so everybody can hear what his question is about.
So, God bless you. There's been racism since the Africans came across and were brought up, since the Mexican Americans, where this was Mexico, where California was Mexico, many other spots. There's been hatred and bitterness everywhere. And even white America, because even the Irish people in New York City, in Hell's Kitchen, were treated like dirt, you know, so it's been ugly. But if we stick together, and we make one race, I'm not talking about just Mexicans and black, about the Chinese, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, anything that's minority, and we unite together and get tight, man, this American system will poop in their pants, forgive me for that French, but they'll get scared. Because, you know, my dad said that there was a bundle of sticks and a bunch of kids, and they were always fighting, so here, break that bundle of sticks, and they're all like that, and then he broke the rope and he gave them one stick apiece and said, break that stick. And that was easy, Dad. He said, because that bundle, united we stand, and that's one stick is divided we fall. So if we unite together and help each other out and support Hispanics in the office and position and everything and help everybody out, I'm telling you, things will get better. Because without our vote, without us speaking, without our mouth, we can't do nothing. We need to speak up, we need to stand firm.
Thank you, sir. I think that's more of a statement, Reverend, but I think we all probably agree.
Let me say this. What's his name?
Pastor John.
Pastor John. Listen, Pastor John. All right. Listen, Pastor John. Listen, on June 15th, write this day down. June 15th, it's a Wednesday. We worked with the Texas Rangers to create Negro League Day, a day of harmony at the Texas Rangers for Father's Day and Juneteenth weekend. We want to invite you all to be a part of that because the Negro League was the first black, brown, or the original black, brown, and tan caucus. The Negro League had black and brown, women, white, all of them working together to make that league a successful league. And color had nothing to do with it except if you talked about green. Amen? So we know what you're saying, Brother John, is true, but we just need to get back to those ways when we figured out a way to work together.
Thank you, Reverend. We really appreciate your attendance this morning. Sorry you have to leave it, but I know that the ministry called you. Ms. Henry, thank you very much. did not recognize some of the leadership that's here for our LULAC District 21. We have Mr. Sel Carrillo, who's the district director. We have a LULAC chapter in the back. Also, LULAC members, take a stand and take the applause. And also, all the public servants in the house, stand up, please. Police, teachers, everybody that serves our community. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for helping our community upgrade ourselves. It is always a pleasure when we have the Chief of Police grace our agenda. Because, you know, we have to work together with the police department. All of us in our respective communities. We need to know who leads us. We need to know who we can go to when we need help. They are our friends, not necessarily our enemy. We need to think about how we can create those bonds of understanding, as the Reverend said earlier. But we need to meet with them also when they're having their meetings out in the community. Today we're very lucky to have Chief Neil Notes here, and his staff. He's been here with the Fort Worth PD since 2000, 22 years and counting. He served in multiple ranks across the department in areas such as patrol, DWI, motors, and internal affairs, prior to being named Chief of Police. He oversaw the South Command as Deputy Chief. He earned his bachelor's degree in Criminal Justice Administration from Colorado State University, and his master's degree in Criminal Justice and Criminology from Texas Christian University. He's a graduate of the Southern Police Institute's 137th Administrative Officers Course and TCU's inaugural leadership. Let's all welcome Chief Neil Notes.
So Pastor Tatum talked about great food and listening to a Baptist preacher to start your day. I'm the son of a Baptist preacher, so that's every day for me. Growing up, it was always great food and listening to a Baptist preacher speak, but I'm thankful for that. That was a blessing to me, for God to be able to have someone speaking to me at an early age about the way I should be, the way I should treat other people, the way I should lead. It's what really has led me to where I am today. This is a really great honor for me. The honor is for me. Anytime I can come to the community and speak about what's important for the police department, what's in my heart, but really more importantly, hear about what's important to you, what's on your heart. That's what I need to hear. That's what helps us do our job better. And again, as Pastor Tatum said, if I can phrase it another way, we can disagree without being disagreeable. No one agrees 100% of the time on everything, but I bet we agree on more things than we don't. And one thing I found long ago, early in my 22 so far year career with Fort Worth PD, is we are better together. It doesn't matter what the topic is, what the issue is, what the crisis may be, we are better when we're together. When I think about the vision for the Fort Worth Police Department, how we serve you, and when I think about the vision of what we want to see in every community in the city of Fort Worth, it comes down to three simple words. Three simple words. Safety, wellness, and resiliency. What is the number one thing that you expect from the Fort Worth Police Department? Safety. If you are not safe in your own neighborhood, if you don't feel safe when you go to work or when you go to school, there's really nothing else we do that's going to matter. First and foremost, we have to make you safe and make you feel safe. Secondly, it's about the wellness of the community. When I'm talking about that, I mean, we have a crisis right now with violent crime, specifically gun crime, and all too frequently, young people, guns, and violence. If you look at the areas of the city where you see less of that violence, what do you usually see? You see a community that is well holistically. All the resources they can need are there. You've got high-performing schools, you got a great job market, you have access to quality health care, you have access to quality, nutritious food. You have the things you need to be successful. If you look at the areas where you see more of the violent crime, what do you see? You see areas that have been ignored for far too long. Areas who haven't been given the same resources, the same attention, same positive attention as other sides of town. When I first applied for the position, one thing I said is we have a lot of jobs, a lot of hats we have to wear as officers, and a lot of officers will say, well, we're not social workers. That's not our problem. We can't deal with the disadvantaged areas if we don't have the resources. That is the wrong attitude to have. Don't tell me it's not your job. Tell me who we can work with to do the job. Because who more frequently encounters folks who may need resources? We do. But it doesn't mean the police have to provide everything. It means we need to partner with those organizations that have the resources to make sure those are available to everyone who needs them. So it's about having that holistic wellness. It's about economic development in these areas. I could go on forever just on that one topic. But let's move on to the resiliency piece. Safety, wellness, resiliency. If you have a community that is safe, if you have a community that is holistically well and healthy, it's automatically resilient. That's a community that is empowered to do what it needs to do to take care of itself. That's what we want to see in Fort Worth. And my job is to make sure we have a department that's safe, well, and resilient. What that means is, I've got officers with the training and equipment they need to come out in your neighborhood to do the job safely. I've got officers who are holistically well, meaning not just physically fit. I'm talking mentally and emotionally, spiritually, financially. If you have an officer who is holistically well, comes in with the right frame of mind, that's the person you want serving. You want somebody coming into your community that you trust, and it's my job to do everything I can to make sure those are the officers you have. And then we got to make sure we have a culture within the department that maintains that wellness. One that's specific for me is that mental and emotional piece. Far too long this has been some super hyper masculine dominated, be tough at all times profession. You can't do that. Yes, ma'am. The days of be a man and suck it up, those are far, far over. We have to be able to acknowledge not just physical pain, that mental and emotional pain that officers experience every day when they see things they shouldn't have to see. Those are the kind of healthy officers we need in the community to serve them. We need you to be part of the solution. We cannot do this alone. I think for a long time we've tried, policing in general has tried to do it ourselves. We can't do it alone. But we also know we got to earn your trust. Let me tell you a few of the things we've done that I hope will earn trust in the long run. One, we're trying to do as many events like this as we can to actually be in the community. It's one thing to say we want to be a part of the community. We want to help. But if the only time you see us is when you call us because you have the worst day of your life, that's not the way to make a relationship. You have to have the relationship develop before the crisis occurs. I think everybody here is probably familiar with SB4, Senate Bill 4. I hope you know I was not chief then, but I hope you know then Chief Ed Krause stepped out with most of the other major city chiefs in the state, and they were willing to step up and say, this is a bad bill. This is not something we want. This will create a community of silent victims who are afraid to call us when they need us, and that is the last thing we want. We recently signed off on actually shortly after becoming chief, I signed off on joining something called the Law Enforcement Immigration Task Force. When you hear that, the name is something, wait, what? It's not what it sounds like. What it is a group of chiefs and sheriffs from across the country who say, we are not immigration officers, don't try to make us do it. It says the system is broken, something needs to be done to fix it, but don't put that on us because that is not our job. It's a way to step out and show we want to support our immigrant communities and make sure they understand we're only here to serve them, not to enforce federal laws around immigration. Another thing, we signed off on a letter that was sent to the Texas legislature this last time around. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. Did you know that prior to 9/11, after 9/11, there were a lot more laws put into place. After 9/11, or before 9/11, a person could be a legal permanent resident without being a citizen and be a police officer? We had officers on our department who were not U.S. citizens, but were legal permanent residents. We signed off on a document supporting a push for legislation that would allow municipalities to determine on their own whether or not they wanted to be able to hire legal permanent residents and DACA recipients. Because if you really, really want to connect with the community, if you really want to get engaged, not only do we need to be in the community needs to be part of us. And without allowing those kind of things, it's hard for us to really engage and connect and hire the people, the good people who are really invested in the communities that we want to be part of our department. So we're taking steps to do what we can to earn your trust, to make our department the best it possibly can be. What I ask is for a little help. And many of you do already. Don't think we don't see it. Help us, engage with us. Who best knows what's going on in communities and where the violence is happening? People who live there, people who work there, people who care about it. Please reach out to us and let us help. Let us be partners with you in dealing with violent crime, because if either of us try to do it alone, it's not going to work. But if we do it together, I don't see anything we can't get going as partners. And we appreciate that. I'm probably going over. I'm going to stop there if it's all right and see what kind of questions. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Latino. Well, I grew up in the north side, being a teacher, that's been my calling. And in teaching, we have accountability, right? So you had mentioned something about safety being the number one thing we want for police officers, but we also want accountability. And too many times, too many incidents kind of distance the community from the police officers, and we lose hope in a justice system that's broken, because it seems that police officers and the Supreme Court has ruled that in certain crisis situations, they've almost given them like a carte blanche license to shoot first and ask questions later. There's the old police saying, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Okay, so I have a former soccer player who's in the police academy, who I hope does well, because he's an immigrant success story. We have relatives that have been police officers, Aguilar. I have a friend named Sotero Castillo. So I'm not anti-police. However, we want accountability. We want more body cameras. We want better training. To be a teacher, you have to do rigorous amounts of training. Most people have to do student teaching. And I know you'll have a probationary period for police officers, but in those kinds of situations, I mean, it can't be just shoot first and ask questions later. And then, second of all, I wanted to talk about the crime rate here. I mean, El Paso is the third, in terms of cities with high populations, they're number 3 in crime. Why can't we go and, I know demographics might be different, but are there some things y'all are doing to study their model, or other things where we can improve, be more effective here over the crime rate? So 2 things, accountability, and then how do we reduce crime? What are we doing to look into improving that? Thank you.
Hey, great question, thank you very much. Something I actually talked with some community members at Pastor Tatum's church, it's been 2 or 3 years ago before I was chief. You look at where a lot of the crime happens, and you look at the residents there, and you ask them what they want. A lot of people say, well, you're over-policing. They don't want you there. Go to those communities and ask them. It's not that they don't want police, they just want to be policed the right way. That's what it comes down to. Treat me with dignity, treat me with respect, keep me safe. To have that, we've got to have accountability. And I'll be quite honest with you, when I got hired 22 years ago, some of the stuff you're talking about, I heard some sayings like that. I'm not hearing that anymore. Shoot first and ask questions later. We have a state standard of training we have to provide. We do about twice what the state requires. You're right. Training is critical in any profession, teaching, policing, whatever it is. One of the things I said earlier was about that safety piece, is training for officers, to keep the officers safe and to keep the community safe. It's all about the training we do to do things better. We talk about body cameras. We just got unanimous support from the city council for a huge contract with new and improved technology with body cameras, dash cameras, technology that wasn't even thought of when I first got hired. It was $74 million over 12 years. That's an incredible cost. That's an incredible cost for us to ask of the citizens. Now, that's coming out of our CCPD, so it's not raising your taxes to make that happen. But that's the commitment we have, and that's the commitment the city has for accountability with officers. If you look across the country, there are people who have been saying things for years. This is going on in policing. This is going on in my neighborhood, my police department. And there was pushback. No, it's not. But guess what? Cameras came along, and what did it show? Some of the things that people have been saying were happening. And now there was footage to show it. So we're making sure we're getting all of our officers outfitted. We started with body cams when we did Deputy Chief Corrado back in I can't even remember how long ago it was. It was a long time under Chief Halstead. We are all about accountability. We're all about training. We're all about making sure officers are doing the right things the right way. And one thing that I hope I have shown since I've been chief, we've been transparent not only about conduct of officers is not acceptable, but how we handle it. I've had to fire several officers since I've been chief because of unacceptable behavior. Whether it was because of force that was inappropriate or an inappropriate social media post. I've had to fire officers for social media posts. It seems ridiculous, but oftentimes after someone's character really comes out. And if that's someone's character, they don't belong in my police department. We hire for character, we train for skill. I want to hire people that have character first, because you can train for skill, and we do. You can't train character. You either have it or you don't.
Chief, just to have a minute, Mr. Christine, on a comment you made. I just want to touch on something in reference to a comment you made that I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. That you mentioned. That's a culture. That's an old culture. And that kind of struck with me when you mentioned that. So one thing I wanted to bring up that we're doing now, and that the chief approved for us to do, is with our new recruits. Prior to them graduating the academy, we get officers that were not just the officers that are homegrown from the community. Officer Nestor Martinez that's back there as well. The chief's office takes part in it. And we get stakeholders from the community to come in and engage with those new recruits. Another thing, old culture, with police, legend, and accountability is that, and this is my 30th year, so I've been here for a bit. And I remember some officers saying, hey, let's kick butt and take names. You want to go work in the east of it. You want to go work in the north side. That's where all the crime is, right? That's old culture. That is changing with the permission of the chief and his support. We're changing that by bringing the people from the community to meet the recruits, to educate these new police officers that are going to get the streets. We bring them out to the community, to the businesses, to engage business owners, so that they can see that you don't just come to the north side and kick butt and take names. This is a beautiful community. There's beautiful people in the community. It's not all about crime, because crime is caused by let's just say that 1% of criminals that commit 90% of the crime anywhere. It's that 1% bad people, right, that do it. So they need to know that you go to East Side, you go to Stop 6, you go to Diamond Hill, you go to North Side. There's a lot of beautiful people there, hard-working, pro-police. So that's what we're doing. That's one of the things that we're doing. I just wanted to get up and speak on that because I know the chief has it all in his mind. But he approved that. Every class that comes out before they graduate, we take them to the different sides of the city, not to kick butt and take names, but to meet the beautiful people that we're going to work with in that community.
One of the things that's great about that program is when they initially come to the academy, we have all the recruits there. We have, 2, 3, 4 people who get up there and speak. And what they speak about is not why they love police or why they love the Florida Police Department. It's why they don't. It's about interactions they've had that may have been negative. Things that happen to make them not trust the police. The next session, we do breakout sessions where it's a little more intimate. They are free to ask more questions. Because if they're going to ask a question that may be controversial, let's ask it in this environment. And then when we take them out to the community, that is, again, And policemen used to expect the community to come to us. We have to go to the community. We take them out there, and I know there's one guy, African-American male, who's about 6'5", at least 400 pounds. The guy's huge. And he'll come and talk, and he was a former gang member, drug dealer, talks about his interactions with the police. And he says, people start doing like this. He says, when I talk, I may be talking about the cowboy gang, but I'm loud, I use my hands, I'm very animated. And he said, officers, you've never seen that thing of being aggressive. And that can turn bad, really, especially when you're that big. So he comes in and tells this to the recruits. So now when they see that, I always start talking about the cowboy game, not always about to hurt them. When they see somebody who may be dressed a certain way or look a certain way in the community, they see that person as a community member, not a suspect, just because of the way they look or the way they're dressed. If I have somebody who's never dealt with an African-American male, 6'5", 400 pounds, who's talking like this about the Cowboys, I want the first time that happens to be in a safe environment and not an intense situation. That way, they know how to deal with it if it ever comes up.
Chief, we have a couple of questions.
Yes, yes, please.
And one of them is, I guess, if the public school system is doing anything to have those high school kids think about criminal justice. And I know that in Dallas, there's at least 3 schools that are now, this is about their 3rd or 4th year, where instead of having to recruit from heaven wherever you can get them, to bring them into the department, we're actually creating our own workforce. And I'm just curious whether, in fact, there is that type of collaboration with the school system at the high school level.
I'm so glad you asked. One of the really great things about Fort PD is having people like Officer Nestor Martinez, Deputy Chief Pedro Peado, because we have people from the community who already love the community, who already understand the community, and wanting to do positive things in the community. So if we can hire people who already have the right heart for the community, have that right character, we can train them to be police officers. That's the easy part. It's the heart. It's not always easy. I want to thank my good friend here, Alex, for reaching out to me, I don't remember how many months ago it was, about starting something called the Diverse Talent Pipeline Coalition. Diverse Talent Pipeline Coalition. What we're doing, based on a great idea from this gentleman here, and this is, again, please come to us with your ideas. We're not going to have all the great ideas. We have amazing students right here in Fort Worth who are going to do amazing things in the world. The problem is they're leaving Fort Worth to do it too often. We want them to stay right here, invest in Fort Worth. We looked at 3 career fields where we're really seeing not only a lack of good applicants, but a lack of diverse applicants. 1, policing. 1, medical field, like nursing, medical techs. And teaching. We need more diversity of good local kids to be involved in it. So what we're doing is partnering with Fort Worth ISD, partnering with TCC, Carleton, TCU, and whoever else we can get on board before this is over. JPS. We're reaching to these kids when they're still young. Middle school. Because sometimes we wait too long if it's too late. Engage with these kids, we find out what they're interested in, and we can put them in one of our tracks. You want to be a police officer? We'll help you out. Eastern Hills, great criminal justice program, but kind of tailed off. We're starting it back up. We're going to get the kids involved in this program. We're going to have 4 police officers as mentors for these students. The ones that stay in the program, the ones that are successful, the ones that are committed. TCC has agreed to give them dual credit while they're in high school. So by the time they graduate, they're well on their way to their associate's degree if they don't already have it. Successful in the program, automatic acceptance to TCC to finish that associate's degree. We'll have automatic acceptance for Charleston, TCU, and again, wherever else it might be to finish that bachelor's degree. And once you finish that, staying engaged with us or whatever career field you're interested in, we got a job for you when you're done. That's how we get kids involved at an early age. That's how we keep them engaged. That's how we get them educated. That's how we make them truly successful. And we all do it together. It's an amazing partnership. We're going to do some great things.
I'm Rosa Dominguez, and I'm from this neighborhood, and I lived here all my life. But I have, my job has been my passion with homelessness. And I just want to confirm that a homeless person sleeping outside can actually be put in jail for trespassing, being that that's the law that came in just, what, a year ago? In other words, you can be outside and be put in jail. I found out just 2 weeks ago or so that there's a drop-in center that not a lot of police officers know. And I want to know what you're going to do to find out, to make everyone know that there's a place that a homeless person can be placed there because they have nowhere to sleep versus to be put in jail for trespassing.
One of the things we hear a lot in law enforcement is about the criminalization of homelessness, right? Now, obviously, we don't want things in Fort Worth to turn out how we've seen in LA with Skid Row. It's just out of control. There's really no help for anyone it doesn't seem. We're seeing some other cities in Texas, rather, that are really having issues as well. Here in Fort Worth, we've had an issue with homelessness for a long time, not to the level some other cities have. And I think it's because of the public-private partnerships we have, organizations that are helping out with it. So, first question was about a person being arrested for trespassing, for, say, camping. There is an ordinance about that. The thing is, a person has to be warned, they have to be given an opportunity to leave, and they have to be given an opportunity to take advantage of resources well in advance of any kind of criminal or law enforcement action being taken. The other thing is what the young lady mentioned was the diversion center that's been started in Tarrant County. We're extremely happy to hear about the diversion center because it used to be, say, someone was trespassing in a business or sleeping in the front doorway of a business, they refuse to leave, the owner calls us, they still refuse to leave. We didn't have a lot of options. We got an owner of this property wanting the person removed, the person refusing to move, and oftentimes they would have to end in an arrest. But that didn't fix anything. That did not fix anything. With this diversion center, for some low-level, non-violent offense, like trespassing, we have the option, that person has to agree to it, to take them to this diversion center instead of taking them to jail. And there's not even a report done in our offense system. The person is taken, there's no flag, if you will, on any kind of criminal history for them, and it is a location that will give them the resources they need to be successful and get off the streets if that's what they choose to do. It's based off a program in Houston that has seen a ton of success. The recidivism rate, the return rate at the location is very, very low. We're hoping to do the same thing here. As far as making sure everyone knows, every officer in this Ford Police Department has received training on this. We send out memos to everybody to make sure they read about the program. Now, for quite a while, we weren't allowed in Fort Worth to use the center because it was just started. And they were afraid we would bring too many people. Not too many as they didn't want to help, they just didn't have the capacity at the time. That capacity has increased. We are using it now, and our hope is this is something that keeps people out of jail that don't need to be in jail and gets them off the street because it gives them the resources they need. That was a great question. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, please? Up front, please. One more. No statements, questions.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, Chief. My name is Ricardo Gavidia, and I'm a member of the Southside Community, sir. One thing I'd like to, I know that they said no comments, but I'd like to make a suggestion, if possible. You mentioned safety many a times today, and safety is a big part of everyone's concern. Probably everyone's major concern is going to be safety. You also mentioned things about some things that aren't the duties of the police, and that's also understandable. The Fort Worth Police Department works in conjunction with the City of Fort Worth and its City Council representatives. On my way here, the City of Fort Worth Transportation and Public Works Department was putting up cameras, I believe, may have been cameras, or at least license plate readers on the street lights in my community. I am part of the Hemphill Corridor Development Committee, and we haven't heard about these types of readers, cameras, what have you, coming to our community. So I'd like to ask, one, how does the City of Fort Worth choose where these cameras are set up? And two, I also believe that over-policing causes leads to more pullovers, which leads to more arrests, which leads to higher crime, right? And we don't see that in lower quote-unquote crime areas, because in my community, the high crime rates come from Ryan Place and Fairmount, where there's been 2 murders in the last 6 months. So this is necessary in the lower income communities. It happens all over the city. But lighting, illumination has a big part to do with that. And the city of Fort Worth doesn't work at night. And they can only go off of citizen or resident complaints or concerns that they submit to the city of Fort Worth. My question is, what are the city of Fort Worth police officers doing, or I know they're trained on being observant of their surroundings. My question is there any conversation during the meetings about what are some of their concerns in the communities that would make them feel a place safer? And I'm pretty sure one of the things that they're going to say is going to be illumination, safety, right? And if in high crime areas there isn't illumination, I think that needs to be a concern brought up by our police officers so that the city of Fort Worth can get people out there to put some lights up. And that happens to be in our communities. Unfortunately, some of those lights that are put up are being paid for and they don't work because the city of Fort Worth pays a flat rate of, I believe, $3,500 per light in the city of Fort Worth. So I think that getting more light in the communities and having officer feedback as part of that would help enhance will at least speed up the process to get that illumination out in communities and hopefully also help you guys deter any crime.
Thank you, sir. We will not arrest our way out of crime. You may have heard me say that over and over again. For us, prevention, intervention, those are preferable over enforcement anytime. Part of prevention is dealing with environmental conditions in communities and maybe contributing to crime. One of which research has shown over and over and over again is lighting. If you got a spot in an alley in a neighborhood where there's no light, somebody can go in there and do whatever they want to do, they're going to go in there and do whatever they want to do. Sometimes just lighting that up, well, it's kind of like when you turn on a light in a building. If there's roaches that can stack, right? They don't want to be in the light. If you have criminal element, people that are causing violence, committing criminal acts in the neighborhood, you shine a light on what they're doing, they're going to go somewhere else. We recently put together, and you can go on our website and look at our violent crime strategy. We just put out a violent crime strategy about a month ago. One of the things we've done is put together a committee of other department heads within the city of Fort Worth, like traffic and public works, to streamline the process so that when we find out from officers and community members and our crime prevention specialists that go out and do surveys of lights in neighborhoods to say, hey, this is one of our crime hotspots. There's also 3 lots out on this street. It doesn't go to the bottom of the list. It goes to the top of the list. And it's given priority over other areas because those are the areas where we need the most concentration of all resources, not just officers. So we're working with other departments and other organizations, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, different entities that it can actually assist with those resources like the lighting that you mentioned. We're working to get that done even faster. Great question, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief, for being here with us today. Let's hear for Chief. Thank you for all your team that you're helping with this morning also, Chief. Let's remember that they keep us safe and secure, so we owe a debt of gratitude to the public service and our community, particularly the police department. Thank you very much. Hey, I spent 7 years as San Antonio Police Department. I know the job ain't easy, okay? That's how I got my college education at St. Mary's University. As soon as I graduated, I'm out of there. Anyway, we also welcome back to our breakfast Dr. Elson Campolo, who's a lifelong political activist and DFW native. She took it a step further in 2017 when she ran for State Senate District 10 and then enjoyed the immense opportunity of heading the 2018 Tarrant County Democratic Coordinated Campaign. Immediately following that cycle, and so inspired by working with candidates and activists across the country, She founded Terran Together in January 2019. This countrywide organization focuses on activating and registering Democratic voters and enjoys working in concert with many groups and campaigns, including the Tarrant County Democratic Party and other nonprofits. I bring to you Dr. Allison Campolo.
Hi, everybody. All right, and now I am your Tarrant County Democratic Party Chair. Thank you so much for voting in. So I'll just talk for a few minutes, and then I'd really like to take your questions, because I don't know what everybody wants to know about today, and there's so many things to talk about with the Democratic Party. So I took office in July, so I've been in the job about 10 months, and I did have the opportunity to address this crowd a little under a year ago, so I'm very grateful to be back. Thank you so much to Domingo and Hector for having me back today, and I'm so glad to get to talk to you. I do want to say just a little bit of an update on where we are and what's happening. When I took office, we had a lot of plans. There's a lot of things we talked about in the last time that I got to address this crowd, and I am very grateful that most of those plans have worked out, but I also want to talk about why we have so much work to do here in Tarrant County. We are in kind of an unfortunately unique situation here in Tarrant, and that's, we have two things to our name here in Tarrant County which we kind of wish we didn't. And number one is we're the last red urban county in the United States. And number two is we have one of the lowest rates of voter participation of any urban county in the United States. So this is not like a just us compared to Texas problem. We are very unique in this whole country for a county that is 2 million plus very diverse residents. This is very unusual that we have this much work to do to get Democrats elected to either local government, countywide government, or even help with statewide races. So that's a little bit due to a few different problems. Number one, we have a self-fulfilling prophecy here in Tarrant County. People say Democrats never win. And if you keep saying Democrats never win in Tarrant County, guess what? Democrats aren't going to show up to vote. They're going to feel like their vote doesn't matter. They're going to feel like they're intimidated to go to the ballot. They're not going to feel like the voting booth is a place for them if you keep saying Democrats never win in Tarrant County. So number one, we need to help those voters get to the ballot box. That's our key goal here. And number two is we have, sorry, my brain, I was thinking about voting. Anyways, we have an interesting problem with competitive races, of course, and that's not totally unique to Tarrant, but something that we're really working on and kind of struggling with here in Tarrant is, I think we've all seen those races around town that, even here in Tarrant, that get all the attention. They get millions of dollars poured into those races. And that means that they are getting, all those people get contacted all the time, they get reminded when to vote, why to vote, who's running. But those are in very specific pockets throughout the county. And I'll tell you where they are not usually pouring millions of dollars is into inside 820. North side, east side, south side. Who's spending millions of dollars to remind people to go vote? Who's putting out information in Spanish and English and every other language of that community to tell them how to go vote, who's on the ballot, and why that's important to them. So these are we have a big lift here in Tarrant County that we need to do, and a lot of it is incumbent on the Democratic Party because who else is going to do it, right? We have amazing candidates that do a great job and do all the work that they can do, but a lot of this work should be done by our county party. So when I took office in July, we had tons of plans to start that big lift, and it's a ton of work that we have to do, and we have been hitting those goals for ourselves, but we have so much more work to do. So we did move our office. If you ever want to come visit, we're open every day of the week, so 10 to 5 guaranteed hours, then we're often there till 9 p.m. on something else. So we're now at 35 in Alta Mesa, here in the South Fort Worth. And then we also now have a greatly expanded, very diverse staff. So it was really important to me that our staff represent our communities and be able to interact with every part of our different, very diverse communities here in Tarrant County. And so I hired an executive director who is a Latina, who is bilingual in Spanish and English, and I'm really grateful for her. And then, of course, we also have recently translated our entire webpage into Spanish, which is something that has not yet been done before for our Tarrant County communications. So we just recently got that done, thankfully by a member of somebody here in the Tarrant County Hispanic community, and we'll get that updated very soon. We just got those translations in. And then we're also updating all of our literature into Spanish and English so that we can be working in every community as well. I will say we have some pretty unprecedented plans in place right now. So number one, we have a huge voter registration push going on in the Tarrant County Democratic Party. As you heard, Hector said, you know, I founded Tarrant together with Gwen Baruch, who's one of my founding board members as well. She's running for Senate District 9, please vote for her. I founded Tarrant together because I'm so passionate about voting. Like I said, Tarrant County just has a voting problem. I'm sure you've heard Beto say that Texas is not red, it's just non-voting. Tarrant County is the exact same way. There's no way that this dense of population is a Republican conglomerate. So we absolutely just need to get out there and vote. So we have launched a huge voter registration campaign. I think we have about 10,000 postcards coming out on Monday in a series that we're going to be mailing out. And we're largely working in areas which are very dense but just undervoting, and that's for all of our outreach efforts. So these postcards are mainly going to people on the north side, the south side, the east side that have not been contacted in the last 4, 6, 10 years by competitive other campaigns. And then we also have a coordinated campaign. So I think those of us in Tarrant County have often felt like we're very fractionated. There's these little pockets of